Well, we're good to go.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
How are you? Good to see you.
I have
Doing all right? Good to see you.
How are you?
Good.
Good morning.
I'm here talking to some of my staff, and they don't know who Dwight Yoakam is. I'm like,
Are you kidding me?
what is going
Good
on here? How do you not know who Dwight? How are you?
Good.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's what I was telling them, and they're like, Dwight Yoakam, is he country singer? I'm like, what? What world are we living in here? Who do we hire over here? This agency don't know who Dwight Yoakam is. Come on now. I was gonna have a group this morning. I'm like, come on now.
I was gonna say former staff. That's kind of a pretty weird.
Yeah, exactly. Don't know who Dwight Yoakam is. Come on now. What are we doing? What are we doing? Hey, how are you, Dresser? Good to see you. Good to see you, brother.
Things going well?
This is Ashley Zim. She is going to be the new secretary.
Excellent. Okay, very nice to meet you.
Oh, yeah, he wasn't at the meeting where we introduced her. Yeah, sorry.
Smooth sailing here. So you just tell us.
So she's gonna act and Angela's gonna elbow if she's not.
There you go. That's right.
Angela's leaving me.
What?
She's still in the agency, but
I
she's
am.
moved into finance, which is a buyer position.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
All these
Yeah,
new
you're a rock.
directors just wore me out.
Man. We'll still get to see you some though, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Good deal.
I think I've had 3 directors and 2.
We got 5. Yeah, go ahead and start and Randy will be here. We can get through some of this stuff.
Okay. Mrs. M, you mind calling us? I'll do a call to order, and if you don't mind doing a roll call for us, we can go ahead and get started.
Okay. Randy Gilbert,
Absent?
Shaylin Hanning.
Here.
Edward Hillary.
Here.
Rob Seaman.
Here.
Kendra Wesson.
Here.
Superintendent Walters.
Here. All right, so we have a quorum. I know that we'll put in the notes when Randy gets here, but we'll go ahead and get started. Mrs. Zemp, was the agenda posted in accordance with the Open Meetings Act?
Yes, it was.
Excellent. So the first thing that I have on here on item number 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. If you would, please stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now we'll salute the flag of the state of Oklahoma. Salute the flag of the state of Oklahoma. Its symbols of peace unite all people. Hey guys, I'm going to go ahead and take a minute here of silence for anybody who wishes to pray or sit silently or meditate. Thank you.
Randy?
How are you doing, Randy? We just got out of the initial item there of a call to order and roll call, so you haven't missed anything too crazy. My opening comments are going to be pretty short and pretty brief today. School getting back in session. I'm very excited about the work going on at our CareerTech centers. Since the last board meeting, Kendra Wesson and I got to pop into a couple of CareerTech centers together. So exciting to watch. I've appreciated the CareerTech kind of in their summer flexibility, still letting us know about new programs. Very excited about moving into the school year, getting to see more and more students in the CareerTech centers. So I don't know how the director does it. Seems like he's 4 or 5 different CareerTechs a day. He's all over the place. But love to continue to see the work that's being done. But I do appreciate the CareerTech Center's work over the summer of seeing so much activity around new programs. I'm just amazed at how many new programs are being launched, ready for this fall, ready for students. I just am constantly impressed, and I know I'm repetitive on this, but the flexibility and agility of our CareerTechs is just incredible to me. The changes they make inside existing programs to be more aligned with where that industry is, and then the ability to start up new programs in such a quick manner is really, really impressive. And so I want to acknowledge that is a lot of hard work. I feel like a lot of our career techs make it look easy. It is not easy. And so they've done a tremendous job. And so very excited about the new program starting this fall. Very excited about the students and teachers coming back. So, we'll be out and about much more in the career techs. But again, the work that goes on to launch a new program into the beginning of the school year is pretty tremendous. And so want to tell the career techs and tell the board I have just been really impressed with the programs that we're going to see launched this fall. And that's all I have, so I'm going to turn it over to Director Haken for his comments.
Yeah, good morning, guys, and thanks for being here. And we are, like the superintendent said, ready to get the school year started. Most of them have started. A lot of them are starting today. So kind of a big day across the state in our schools, in our tech centers. One of the things that I wanted to let you know is, like superintendent said, I have pushed pretty hard on tech centers to engage in growth. And what do we need to do to make sure that we're serving more students, whether it's adults or secondary students or however we can do that. So several of them are getting going and talking about what they're doing to expand. Like Green Country reported to me yesterday, they're at 112% capacity. So they're expanding everything that they can do up 100 students. That's huge in their little tech center district, so that's a big deal. Central Tech added 3 new programs this year, and like superintendent said, that's happening across the state. So one of the goals that we've put forth to our tech centers that full-time program enrollments over the next 5 years need to increase by 10,000 students. So that's more than they've increased since the early 70s, actually. So we need growth because people are craving technical training, and so we're working hard to make that happen. Within the agency, we need to lead that and make sure that we're doing a good job there, and as you know, we've hired several new people to make sure that happens. We are currently still exploring an academic affairs director, working on that right now. Just got done with a director survey. One of the initiatives that I've wanted in the agency is let's be reflective of the work that we do and see if it's meaningful and see if the people within our agency feel that it's meaningful as well. So I started that off by having everyone in the staff have an opportunity to review me, and we just got those results back yesterday, and HR is reviewing them, and then I will and present them to you about what they feel the direction is so that we can make adjustments as we go. Also just got off of Summit, which is a partnership activity with OKACT, our membership organization. Great event for over 4,000 educators to be in one place in Tulsa and get professional development and encouragement to get the year started. And you'll hear a full presentation on that here in just a moment. And so that's a few of the things that we're working on. We're going to be talking today about initiatives in the first reading of our budget ask or request. Where are we going with that? What's the direction? So should be a really good time for you guys to engage and ask questions, and we kind of look forward to that dialogue today. So thanks for being here.
Excellent. Thank you for that report, Director. Next, we have a discussion vote on the minutes from the July 24th, 2023 special meeting. Hold on. So this is from July. So this was a meeting I was unable to attend, so I'm going to abstain from voting on these minutes since I was not present.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Actually, I think, Ms.
Okay.
Zemp, I think we've got a motion and we have a second. Do you mind calling roll for us?
Yes, I can do that. Superintendent Walters?
Abstain. Yep.
Ms. Wesson?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Hillary?
Yes.
Ms. Hanning?
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert?
We'll have to,
Yes. Yeah, that'd be the bad.
Thank you. So motion passes. So we have approved the minutes from the special meeting. Next, we have recognitions and presentations. And so, Director, I'll allow you to introduce us to Miss Kylie Moulton.
yeah, Kylie's going to come forward. Kylie is part of Russell's team in communications and marketing. She heads up social media and did a great job at the summit. So she's going to present on what happened at Summit. Hopefully there's a big picture of Randy there, right?
I'm Kylie Moulton. Lazzie said I'm the Communications and Marketing Coordinator at the State Department. Before I give you a recap of 2023, I want to give you a little bit of background on the event. So this is the 56th year that CareerTech educators have met before the new school year. It's been called Summer Conference, August Conference, and now Summit. But let me explain to you why a lot of us think of it as the CareerTech family reunion. So I grew family and consumer science teacher for 25 years, and our family would come with her, and we'd enjoy the pool and the hotel while she was in meetings. I was in ag in school. I interned at the State Department. I worked at Tech in Enid as my first big girl job, and now I'm back at the State Department. My sister works at High Plains Tech in Woodward, and I grew up with half the staff there. So when I go to Summit, I get to see my high school ag teacher, my childhood best friends, my favorite ex-coworkers, and my biological family. And my story's not unique, and I'll show you that later. So to a lot of us, it really is a family reunion, where our CareerTech family gets to reconnect and recharge. But we also get to learn from each other. There are 30 breakout sessions throughout conference with topics ranging from creating a syllabus to personal finance to work-based learning.
Turn your mic on. There you go.
I'm not starting over, sorry.
You're good.
Not only do we network and learn from each other, though, we get to celebrate. We get to cheer on our family as they cross the stage to receive their well-deserved recognition. So let me tell you who we celebrated this year. So, more than 4,000 educational professionals from across the state joined together at Summit 2023. July 31st, we had a small awards banquet with our keynote speaker, Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond. He gave CareerTech support and encouragement to continue the important work we were doing for Oklahoma. During the banquet, we awarded Oklahoma Senator Dwayne Pemberton and Oklahoma Representative Brian Hill with the Distinguished Service Award, and we thanked them for their support at the Capitol. We honored 6 outstanding new professionals that were honored. You can see them there. You also have their pictures in a packet and their names as well. We awarded Carrie Bailey with the Kaleidoscope Award and Brooke Brown for the Communications and Marketing Award. 20 tech centers were named Gold Star Schools. This is an honor that recognizes districts that have gone above and beyond their accreditation standards and met rigorous and demanding criteria. On August 1st at 2 p.m., we kicked off general session. If Director Haken knew his CareerTech facts, the crowd received a shirt via catapult, slingshot. And remember I said it was a family reunion. So these 3 are first cousins. They work at Alva's, Northwest Tech, High Plains Tech in Woodward, and Winoka Public Schools. We began the award recognition with those sponsored by Express Employment. Express donated $27,000 to our winners. First was a familiar face, and we have a copy of a picture for you to place on your mantle later. And then Amber Sutton, one of my favorite ex-coworkers from Autry Tech, well-deserving of the Support Staff Member of the Year. We had the Teacher of the Year, Jonathan Walden from Hinton High School, the Post-Secondary Professional of the Year, Jonna K. Squires from Mid-American Tech, New Teacher of the Year, Wyatt Girth from Tri-County Tech. Our Administrator of the Year was Blake Thomas from Great Plains. Counseling and Career Development was Taylor Odell from Northeast Tech. The Carl Perkins Community Service was Jody Keith from Northeast Tech. The Dennis Portis Rising Star Award was presented to those who demonstrate leadership, devotion, and a strong commitment to the success of Oklahoma CareerTech. We also presented the PK-12 Award of Excellence to North Rock Creek Public Schools for their excellent partnership with their CareerTech system and the public school system. Our Teacher Educator of the Year is April Blackwell from Northeast Tech, and our Arch Alexander Award was Jeremy Cowley. That award is for someone who demonstrates the qualities of Arch Alexander, who was Francis Tuttle's second-hand man. The Lifetime Achievement Award went to Kathy Corning at Western Tech. She has served our system for 40 years. And the Francis Tuttle Award, which is the highest award that we present, was given to Clarence Fortney, who is the superintendent at Great Plains Tech. Our keynote speaker was Kevin Brown. We heard from him at the conclusion of the awards portion. My favorite quote of his presentation: "Can you look in the mirror and see the faces of the people who made you better, who poured into your life? Who looks in the mirror and sees your face? Who is better because you showed up?" He was a great speaker. And then after the keynote speaker, the breakout sessions continued. On August 2nd, each of the 20 divisions went their separate ways around Tulsa to focus on their specific goals and prepare for the year ahead. During Summit, since I am the social media person, more than 112,000 people saw our posts on at least one of our 4 platforms. 17,000 people engaged, and this is just in 2 days. That's a 1,124% increase from the week before. Our followers grew 137% after seeing our 141 posts. And so those were the highlights of our 2023 CareerTech Family Reunion. Thank you.
What questions would you have for Kylie?
Questions?
Go ahead.
One, thank you very much. I was very honored and very humbled to be recognized for.
Well deserved.
Because CareerTech, we truly do have the best in the nation. Seeing a picture of the Attorney General, I believe, if I remember correctly, he actually comes from the CareerTech side because his dad was, his grandfather was a previous ag teacher, Burl Killian.
He was. He mentioned that. Yeah, I didn't even know it.
Yep. So, I mean, CareerTech just affects so many people in so many different ways. So it's very positive. So.
And I will say you really did deserve that. I see you every year at the FFA convention and out and about at a lot of CareerTech events.
I mean, it's a team effort. So, thank you.
I want to say you did a great job on social media.
Thank you.
I was not able to attend, but it seems like every 10 minutes I was getting an update of what was going on there. So
Good.
you did a good job of making sure everybody was aware of what was going on.
Thank you.
Very good.
I heard 2 things a lot from the conference. I heard a lot of folks love the keynote speaker, so he must have been something. I mean, I heard this from a couple dozen folks. And then I kept hearing from people how much they were glad that Randy Gilbert received that award, that it was very deserving. So I know he doesn't like to do that, but it is amazing, Randy, how many people I've had reach out and go, hey, no better recipient than Randy. There's a great advocate for CareerTech system. So those are the 2 things I've heard about a lot about the conference. So thank you guys did a tremendous job. Again, you see, and you do a great job, by the way, the messaging around it. Mr. Hillary said is just tremendous. I mean, you guys did a great job of getting it out because, again, not everybody can attend, but I mean, everybody knew, a lot of folks knew this went on. They knew who the speakers were. So great job of getting that out around the state too. And so that's really exciting to see how well you guys were able to put that out there.
Thank
Very
you
well
very
done.
much.
Very well
Thank
done.
you.
Thank you, Kylie.
Okay, so the next item we have is item number 3 is a discussion on the first reading of the fiscal year 25 appropriations request by Miss Lisa Batch.
Actually, I made an error there, and I didn't get Lisa's name off. It should be me presenting that.
Yes, sir. Yep, gotcha.
Unless you want to, Lisa. All right, you guys all should have a copy of the first reading or draft of what our appropriations request would look like for this year. You may recognize some of it from last year's, but we've changed the format a little bit, so I'll walk you through that. Our current general appropriation is listed at the top. I'll give everybody a second to find it if they have not. The next item listed is the statutory requirement for the legislation to provide flex benefit allowance for the employees. So that's the estimate at this time of what it would cost us next year. So that's our first line of ask is always there, just so it's not forgotten, because it can be forgotten from time to time that they think that's just included. So we got to make sure that the legislature remembers that they have to fund that. Hasn't been a problem in the recent years, but was before that, so we want to make sure they're reminded. After that, we have changed our format of a request from what the last couple years were to focus on what is an individual need that we need in the state and how do we meet that need. So everything that you will see is focused on that. The $37 million in workforce training request is what is left from last year's request that was not met by the legislature. We got $3 million out of the 40 that was requested, and now we are showing why that is needed. Here's what I would tell you as you look through that. This will be updated as of August 25th. I asked all of the superintendents of technology centers to, once they get their students there, show us where the need really is, where it lies now. They have an idea from pre-enrollment and all those things, but once everything settles out, come back to me and tell me where are the areas of growth that we need in your community. That way we can address what those needs are with our requests. So they have a survey to them currently, and they have begun to fill that out, and will continue until August 25th, when I will shut that off, and then we'll talk a little more in depth with each one of them about what it looks like for a request for this year. So we've changed a little bit of our format, and stop me at any time if you have a question. Incarcerated individual workforce, that is our Skills Center programs, but we want to make sure that people understand what Skills Center means, because not everybody knows what a Skills Center is. So that is our training for the incarcerated individuals in our state. We have had great success with that program, with a 90 or better % placement rate every year. And then on average, I think, Justin, we're what, 5-6% recidivism? So very successful program that every state in the country is trying to model what we're doing. So we want to add new programs so that we can reach a larger population of the incarcerated. We release 6,000 to 7,000 inmates every year. Now, we can't train all of them because some of them don't meet the criteria. They immediately released, or they were a one-night, incarceration, so we can't train there. But there's a lot more that we can do. So our goal is to get to 1,750 inmates a year. We're going to try to do that over the next 5 years, so we've requested 750,000. One of the big requests there you'll see is transition coordinators. The biggest hindrance to a inmate going back to the workforce is, how do I get to the job? How do I have a way to get back home? How do I have work boots to go to work? Those types of services. So we need to make sure that we can provide that so that they are taxpayers, not users. So construction trades is the growing need there. I think Justin has been, Dr. Lockwood's been training our new superintendent, and they just met with a company last week talking about the program that they would build for them. So that company that hires, 600? I think they're hiring 600 a year. Yeah. 600 employees, and so they can't fill their needs. So we're looking at building a program specifically for their type of construction, and then other employers may jump on as well. So there's a lot of need in that space. The Empowered by Oklahoma CareerTech program is a new brand of what we have been doing with TANF services in partnership with DHS. DHS has requested that we bring forward a new proposal. How can we better serve individuals in need? That will include probably other government programs as well, SNAP, EBT, those things. Those families that qualify for those services need educational training so that they can get a leg up. And we are proposing how to really wrap our arms around that service and make sure that they can be a part of the CareerTech family and get into a high-wage, high-need job. So that's why we have that proposal there. The Career and Technology Expansion Program, if I'm being real honest, is because we have a large expansion need in western Oklahoma. If you look at the Panhandle and some of that area, there's not a CareerTech service really available as far as a technology center, but that's going to come at a cost to jumpstart it. It will sustain itself with tax dollars and what we do from the state side as well, but it needs a start. If the taxpayers were to vote that in, that could be a one-time startup cost to help them get programs going immediately. So that's the reason we have that request. So for a total of $41,750,000, again, this is the first reading of that, but it's a great time for us to have discussion around these ideas, or maybe other ideas that you have.
So on the expansion program, is that kind of in response to like the one last time being declined and everything? You think that might help to encourage them to approve to expand into those areas?
Possibly,
if there's
yeah.
some money there that they're not going to.
Yeah, and really, that one is very small.
Yeah.
But if you think about Beaver County or the area around Shattuck and that area, and they have a large land masses, miles of people that need travel, so they'll probably need a building or a space closer to them. And so that could come over time. but to wait on tax dollars to get there would inhibit students immediately from being a part. So we don't need to be busing students, hour and a half to get to a technology center and then back to their school. So if we could have an expansion program where it was a one-time, we'd send this out to you, get these students immediate help, I think it would be a great service. Beaver County currently is discussing whether they would want to vote and form a technology center district, or if they want to vote and be a part of another technology center. That would be a huge thing for the residents in Beaver County. So if they do that, I want to be able to help them. Basically, I need to help you get started. I don't want to create a problem because you want something more for the students there.
Can I ask you a question on that? So you've got some areas don't have a CareerTech out there that again, like you said, are debating that.
Yeah.
But when you talk about expanding out there when they don't have a CareerTech, what is that? Is that an instructor? Is it busing? Is it virtual? Is it all the above? Can you kind of walk us
All
through?
the above. So yeah, I can walk you through that. So to be a part of the district, I don't know how well you guys know, but there's several votes that have to occur. First, that their area, whether it's the county commissioners or school board, would have to vote to say we want to be a part. Then you as a state board would have to vote and say, yes, we would allow you to be a part. And then they will take that back to the people to vote on, okay, we're okay with this millage that would be assessed. Once that all passes, then if it's an area where it's not feasible for them to bus, they would have to be either in the school or create a space for them to have these programs. So the teacher and things like that is an obstacle as well. But if it's far enough away, like in the instance of Beaver County or something like that, okay, where would we do this? There's spaces there, but old schools that have been abandoned, things like that, but they may need to be renovated.
Sure.
So that's kind of
Okay.
the thought.
So when we're talking about this expansion program,
It'd be a one-time thing that you kind of, more like a school consolidation, where you can
Okay.
give an incentive to them to combine resources to
Okay.
make it more sense. It'd be similar to that as where it's expansion. The opposite is, okay, we see that you need to grow. Here's a one-time help.
got it.
Yep.
Got it.
That's the
Okay.
idea around it.
And when we go through, and I know that you talked about this kind of in the ask for last year, but when we're looking at expanding in these key areas, these are areas that, again, I think it would be good for us to hear. I mean, how did you identify these areas?
Yeah, great.
I know you did a lot of work on this, but
Yeah.
can you kind of explain to us
Yeah.
how you chose those areas?
So actually, Dr. Denny had started this before I came on, and she had asked all tech centers to do a survey of your wait list and what areas are the biggest wait list. And then, so she did that, and that's where we figured out, there's almost 11,000 students on a wait list now trying to get into a career tech center in one way or another. So then we break that down further of what are the areas that those wait lists are in, and that's how we started identifying. But then we went one step further on that and asked the schools, what are the ways that you could expand that? And so that we put a dollar amount assigned to that. Okay, would it be you have to add space, or would it be you just need to add an instructor, or would it be that you have to build a whole new campus in place to meet that need because it's so great? So that's how we started breaking this down, as several stages of, okay, where is the need, and then how do we meet that need?
And I do think, again, when we're looking at and I know we don't have an action item today,
Yeah.
correct? So
No, this is just a first reading and discussion, and let's see what we think. Yeah.
I think it's very important for us to articulate when we ask for a budget increase of the legislature why we're asking for it. I think that the director's done a great job of the homework on these programs, because the one thing that I hear the most, probably the biggest, I mean, I call it a critique, it is, but it's a critique and a compliment, and it is, we wish that some of these programs, more kids had opportunities to be in them because some of the wait lists are long. So again, it is a critique, but it's a testament to the success of CareerTechs. And as the director said, I do feel like when we're talking about some of these very technical types of trainings that you have to provide, it is a huge cost to expand. When you're looking at manufacturing or energy industry training, that these are not going to be cheap expansions. There's a lot of equipment that would have to be purchased when you talk about the type of folks that you're going to get in to teach those things. So I think it is important that we understand, but also that we articulate to the legislature, this money directly is going to expand the programs you've heard so much about. We've seen wait lists on, and they have a direct impact to the economy because, again, as you went through those, these are the wait lists, but again, part of the beauty of CareerTech, these are the wait lists in CareerTech. These are also the wait lists in the workforce. I mean, yeah, you didn't take many conversations around the state for people to hone in on health. I mean, look at healthcare careers, construction trades, manufacturing, energy industry. I mean, these are four of the biggest industries we have in the state, and four of the biggest industries that we're going, Well, I'm telling you, I mean, I was with a construction company last week that goes, hey, you could throw dozens of kids at us a week and we're just hiring like crazy. I mean, so it is, I know it's an anecdote, but you hear this all the time. So I do think it's great that as we're discussing a budget request moving forward, I hear this from the legislature. I do think it's great for us to be really specific of the expansion and that we are meeting the needs of not only CareerTech centers, but also the broader state needs as well. So that's just kind of a comment. But I do think whenever you ask for more money, the onus is on us, on the director, to really say, here's what you're getting, here's why, here's the need, and also here's what it looks like. I do think you guys have done a really good job of the homework here on this.
The other thing I would mention, and I appreciate that, is one thing that's not on here that is a huge need in our state is CDL training, but we got money for that this year. That's why it's not on. I don't want to go back to the legislature and say, okay, you gave me some, now I want more. It's no, you gave me some for that, let's make sure it works. And then we'll come back and adjust from there. So they gave us some dollars to make sure that happens. That's why we're not at $40 million anymore. So let's see what we can do in that space before we come and request more. Also, not on this request that you would have seen last year was our K-12 expansion. So our programs like FFA, DECA, FACS, all those that are STEM that are in a K-12 school, not in a technology center, we received a lot of money last year, more than expected. About 5.5, I think, is going to end up going to those programs. 5.5 million by the time we get over the 2-year span to expand. So we added 175 new programs this year. We expect to be able to add a large number next year, which will be great for our state, for the schools not to have to be on a waiting list anymore to add those, because that's been a hindrance to them ever since really COVID is, okay, I want an ag program or I want a BMIT program, but I can't add because you don't have any money. So we took care of that need this year. So that's something we don't need to ask for, is let's do good on the promises that we've made to the legislature.
For these workforce programs, how much of what you actually said out loud will they actually get to find out about? Because my question is the same, where is it physical, is it people, is it equipment, what is it? Will they actually get to know that, or are they actually looking at something that's similar to this, where unfortunately the numbers don't mean a lot without that?
So part of what the one pager is to keep it on the forefront of a legislator's mind. Usually if you give them a packet, it's hard to review all those things. But then we have budget hearing meetings as well, where we get to dig in a little deeper and talk about how we're going to expand. We also get to have individual meetings with legislatures where they can ask those requests. So whether it's a representative over the education committee, or if it's somebody over a budgets and appropriation, we have those individual meetings to dig in a little deeper on what it would be needed for. And then we'll be presenting at some interim studies this year as well, so that we can show them what that is. But it's hard as a legislator, and I don't want to speak for them because I'm not one, but when you have a stack of everybody's requests and they're a whole folder full, you don't really have time to read that. So we try to keep a one-pager in front of them, and then anytime we can talk with them and show them what's needed, or if they have a request. Most will ask as we come in and say, okay, can you come down to the Capitol on Tuesday and tell me what your request is going to do? So they would rather have that meeting and talk through it than read something we just put down. That's been my experience so far. But we will know a lot more after August 25th when I get the results back from our superintendents to say, okay, what does enrollment look like this year, and how are we going to expand for the next? Because what I'm using is last year's data that wasn't filled by the legislature, and then we will shape that by enrollments that are live this year.
As a follow-up, I think that's a great question. When you look at how much of the discretion of the funds go to the district, or does it rest with the department?
So some of both. There are a few areas where we line item, but not a lot. We try to leave local flexibility for them to expand. We just understand that from the agency standpoint, we will be your accreditor. We will be the one supervising to make sure that you offered programs that were in need, because we can incentivize that to happen as well. But there's a lot of local control where a district can say, gosh, it's going to be a better deal if I can make this adjustment and add students. For an example, Thomas Fay Custer this year annexed into Chisholm Trail. Well, when they're looking to add these programs to their campus, then they realize in the school they actually had an empty shop. Well, it's a lot cheaper now. We can go into that shop and renovate it and make that change and serve students faster. So we don't want to tie their hands so much with, you have to do this because we're the state agency and we say so. We want student outcomes. So we'll judge off an outcome, and however you got to that outcome, that's really your decision as a school.
Because I would imagine, right, it would probably, you know, some districts, hey, facilities are number one. That's the number one issue. Some districts, it's like, well, we have the building, it's the supplies. Some it might be, well, I'm telling you, you know, it's hard to go find the instructors we need. So they still, in most of these, and I get that it sounds like it differs a little bit, but they do have some discretion on this. And you guys then, the accountability comes on the back end of you guys going, look, you can use it on these things. You have some discretion of how much is spent here and there, but you will report it back to us. We are the accrediting body, so that's kind of how that'll.
Yes, yeah, that's kind of how that works. And then making sure that we have something in place so that they have freedom to grow where they need to as the need arises. That's the beauty of Oklahoma CareerTech, is that we don't have to wait to respond. We can respond based off demand. So we want to keep that flexibility in place.
Was there anything that stands out to you as a look? I mean, you know, we asked for a lot of money last year, so I don't take it as any kind of critique of the ask or the job that we did on pitching it. I don't. I mean, just, you know, that's just kind of usually the way that does work. But was there any kind of critique that you heard from the legislature as to why this budget wasn't met last year, or was it just, look, we increased it some, I kind of wonder if there was a consistent
No,
kind
I wouldn't. So consistently, what I would say is the legislature would like to see, okay, what can you show? Because I'm new. What
Sure.
can you show that you're going to change? That you're going to do? Because we have been consistent in our number of students served.
Right.
So that's been a critique, and I'm with them in that critique. As a system, we have served about the same number of students for the last 10 years. Well, we've got to make an adjustment there. Some of that comes from us at the agency leading that. Gina's getting to lead a rules process right now, so she's excited about being in her new director role, right? Where she's leading the, can we make adjustments to our rules that provide flexibility with virtual learning, with provide capacity changes based on aids that are in those spaces? Can we adjust as an agency and as the accreditor to make sure that we're being flexible as well? So some of it's on us, and then some of it is just the opportunity to empower schools to make the changes needed so that you can add growth. Like we reported during my report, is, you know, schools now that are exceeding their capacity and finding ways to adjust is exciting because they're looking for a way to add. So just like we approved this year a new campus for Indian Capital, I mean, we're going to find ways to make it happen. And it is different for all, because some have an ad valorem base that allows the buildings to take place and some do not. So they have to meet their local needs. If you're in rural Southwest Oklahoma, sometimes it's hard to find a trades instructor that wants to come out of the field. They just don't want to. So that it's different in every area.
So how much when we pushed on this last year, were we using this number a lot, about the 10,000 over 5 years, or is that something?
So the original request last year was not broken up based off of the individual trades areas or training areas. It was more of a expansion of our programs instead of being broken down, and also not tied to an outcome. So that's why we've changed our approach. Is, hey, let's push for an outcome of what our goals will be, where we're headed. What is our job to serve this state? So I'm trying to focus on outcomes more than inputs, and I believe that's the way that a business would operate. That's the way we ought to operate as well. What's our outcome? Students and parents are our clients, so how are we serving them?
I think that is incredibly wise on your part, on the agency's part, because when you look at this, again, this layout right here is a great ask. You've got a metric you're trying to hit. I love what you're talking about focusing on the outcomes. I think a lot of times when you talk to legislators, they get frustrated with government agencies that don't want to pin down look, this is exactly what you're paying for. This is exactly where we're headed. It's kind of well, we just need more. And I think that this right here is a great way for us to submit a proposal that gives the legislature, hey, look, we're trying to meet these needs, and look, we got to go. We do want to expand. You have heard about what a great job we're doing. I love how you talked about, you know, hey, look, we always want to be critical of ourselves. And I think it's very great that we're being analytical and saying, look, one of our problems is we haven't grown enough. We have this huge demand. How do we do that? Here's a way that we meet it. I think it's a really good ask. I really like how you've set it up. So I'd love to hear from anybody else on this discussion point. Again, I think I do appreciate, can you kind of give us a timeline of, would you expect this to be kind of next board meeting to be in okay.
Yeah, so next board meeting, we'll have your final review. This is first draft, then we'll have a final review for the request for next year. So that's time to think about it. Once I get survey results, I'll share that with the board as well so that you can start looking over them so we can have a good discussion for our next board meeting as well about the tweaks that we have. So when you get those results, you'll probably have the adjustments that I think we need to make to this request that's presented today.
I think that's a great approach. I love that we're putting in how many new students we're looking at adding to this and everything.
Yeah.
One thing that I would just point out to you is, use the board as a resource sometimes when you're going to those meetings and everything. We all have, from different areas, we all have different relationships with the legislator. And, when you're going to those meetings, feel free to, I'm speaking for myself, but I think the rest would agree, reach out to us. And none of us have a problem usually going to those meetings or reaching out to our local representatives to help push this along.
Yep, thank you. Perfect.
Very good.
Any other thoughts or suggestions as of now?
Some of the issues with the number of students that we've been able to serve, whether they're in high school or whether they're adult, is we just haven't had the facilities, we haven't had the personnel, we haven't had the ability to grow.
Yeah.
Because we've been a little hamstrung.
Yeah.
So this actually lays it out very good. And I'm quite sure whenever they want to know about health careers, you have a one-liner here, but I bet there's a lot more information.
Here's how many programs we expect to add, and here's how many instructors that will take. Yeah, that'll all be laid out. I'll have that ready for you, like I said, after these survey results are done. That's what it will generate for us is, okay, how many instructors are you needing to meet that need, or are you going to need facilities to do that, so that we can tie something to these dollars a little more in depth. So when a legislator or a group of legislators say, hey, come tell us about your budget request, then we can dig down into those things.
Love the idea of the CareerTech expansion programs because annually when we see that map with them white spots on it, you really want to feel that need, but because we all need good workers.
Yes.
And where do you get good workers?
Yeah.
I mean, they have to be trained and so I think that's I don't know if that number, I mean that's I would think a relatively small number for that, but.
Oh, yeah,
It's a big number for me, but it's
Yeah,
a relatively small
that's right.
number for.
In context to the state education budget, what is appropriated, we are 3% of the education appropriations. So we are the small amount that comes through state appropriations. Now, we understand that within a tech center budget, a lot of it comes locally. But within your pre-K through 12 comprehensive programs, all that $412 and $411 and all those things come through us. So the support of those programs come through us. So we're 3% currently of the education budget in the state.
Very good, though.
Yep.
Thank you, Lisa.
He knows who does the work. Russell's team makes it pretty. Lisa puts the work in on getting the numbers right.
And I will say something that I do flag for legislators is when I'm talking the K-12 education budget as compared to CareerTech budget, I do point out that expansion in CareerTech centers is much more costly because of how technical so much of the training is. A lot of times in K-12, hey, maybe a building, that obviously is a big cost, but we're looking for space is usually what we're looking for. Sometimes technology, a lot of times it's computers, laptops, things like that. But when you're talking about CareerTech expansion, you're talking about, and again, when you go in, I always ask them.
CNC machine,
Yeah,
or a modular house so you can learn how to wire it, or any of those things. Yeah, very expensive.
And I will give them a lot of credit. They're very resourceful on how they get a lot of the equipment and things like that. But, it is expensive. And so that's one of the things I always try to point out with the legislature is, if you really want them to be working in what's really close to the environment that they're going to be working on once they get their certificate, there is a cost to that. It absolutely is a more expensive type of expansion. So I think it's always, that context is helpful for them too to see, well, this is, is it going to really cost that much or whatever else. I do think it is important that, and again, I always encourage them to go see the buildings because it is, boy, when you walk in and you see what they're working on, I was out in, boy, I'm trying to remember now, I guess it was Lawton actually. But we were out there and they were showing us that, I mean, it looked like you were literally in a car dealership with the way that they were, I mean, all the cars, all the equipment, all the technology they had. And they talked about how some of it was new and one of the dealerships within the last few years. Again, and their sign-up sheet, and they talked about when they brought parents in, that the parents are just going, oh my, I mean, yes, sign my kid up. Like, I mean, this is literally, they're gonna be able to go work at a dealership and they're working with the same equipment. So I think that's all good context for the legislature to hear from us too. And so anytime they can get in those buildings, and we always reach out to them when we're over there of, hey, we're gonna be in your neck of the woods. If you guys wanna come in, we're gonna go get a tour. But I think it's great for them to help visualize what we're talking about here.
Yep.
So.
Fantastic.
Okay, I do, and by the way, I do appreciate the ability for us to, you putting that on the agenda to let us discuss it. And we can always have one-off conversations with you kind of leading into the next
Yeah.
board meeting, but that was helpful to talk through that and see that. So that was, let me make sure I'm not missing something. So that was 3. So we'll move on to action item number 4. So we've got a discussion and possible vote on CareerTech hiring policy within the CareerTech Employment Guidebook and Policies Manual and Oklahoma Administrative Code. Yes, sir, Director.
Awesome. So, as a request from the special board meeting that we had there in Stillwater, the reason that we had to have that meeting was because it requires a board vote to hire pay bands 14 and above. So it was asked of Nikki, where is? Oh, Nikki's behind. Yeah, to look into that and what it requires to make that change. So we appreciate Nikki and what she does from the AG's office to help us understand legal processes. So you have in front of you kind of how it reads from our hiring standpoint. There could be changes made to that, and Nikki would probably have to help us if we need to make those changes. But this is open for discussion. I know that you guys requested, let's take a look at it and see if that's where we want to be, or if we want to move more like a lot of agencies and where the director makes hirings up to a higher rate, and then you don't have to be involved as much. We go up to pay band 20, and currently it's set at pay band 14. I did not present a recommendation as this was a request from you all, and I would happily entertain any thoughts that you have to discuss.
I know when we discussed it at the last meeting, you kind of went over as to how many employees were in the higher pay bands. Can you
Yes.
kind of touch on that again?
Sure can, yeah.
If we was to increase it,
Yep.
how that would affect?
So the way we are tiered, pay band 13 is like a program specialist. So for you to think of that as your people in the field most of the time in a divisional area where they're working with the field directly. Pay band 14 is management positions and above. So it may be a divisional manager or underneath another manager, which would be a 14, and there's only currently 3 now? 2 or 3? 3. We have 3 in pay band 14. And then divisional managers are 15s in most instances. Going through that in my head, we'd be closer to 15, I think. Would that be pretty close? Yeah, 15 to 20 divisional managers. And then after that, it's your senior leadership, which is only your directors that are above that. Skill Center Superintendent, the 6 directors, CFO, and myself.
But for Rob and Randy, the reason that we brought this up at this last meeting was because we are, correct me, but like the only board that is going this low for a full board approval for moving forward on positions, meaning that we're calling these emergency meetings. And so we talked about why exactly is this happening? And the truth is that most other boards are leaving it up to the director, whom we hired, to go ahead and make great decisions because we believe he'll make great decisions. So in my opinion, that's kind of summing up why we had this discussion. So I love it. Thank you.
So that's why it's here. Yep.
I think we were discussing a little bit, it might even be 18, wasn't it?
Yeah. Could you remind us how far the band is typical, how far up the band goes typically in other organizations?
So I can't say specifically for other agencies, but I would say the norm is that
You can join us at the table.
that hinders my height. Okay. So I would say that the majority of agencies typically vest that hiring process through their director. Obviously, boards have control over the director, and so that's what is the choice you made, but then leave the rest of the hiring decisions up to the director. Now, certainly I can't speak for every agency, but that tends to be what you see most often.
So this band 14 was set quite a while ago.
Historically, I don't know when or why that decision was made. I will tell you that it seems to also be consistent with the regulations that govern CareerTech, and so if you did make a change to the policy, it would also make sense to dovetail and take out some of the language that this board had previously put into the regulations as well, bless you. So,
Great.
certainly up to you guys. What do you, I mean, if there's something that you want to do, a change you want to make, do you want to vest it entirely within the director, or do you want to set a certain pay band that you would like to vest with this board, or make no change
And
at
I think
all?
Mr. Brown had asked about, could we make that maybe even a financial level? Say anything that was going to be over 80,000 or 90,000 instead of the actually added band. I think that was one of the questions he had asked. So I don't know
I
if
think
that.
that that's up to the board.
Okay.
You guys have the discretion to do what you think is best for the governance of the body. We would just need to make sure that the policy manual and the regulation is consistent with that. I think that if you want to retain some type of control over, I think the regulation's probably fine as it is, then it's just a matter of putting it into the policy. If you'd like to remove that oversight, vest it with the executive director entirely, or I'm sorry, the state director entirely, you could do that, and then in that case, I would suggest that you make a very small change to your regulation.
So Eddie, and I really don't care one way or the other. You guys have been great to explain these things. So I really don't care how you do this. Now, the easiest process that may make the most sense is just to adjust your band, because it is tied to a financial amount that I'm only allowed to offer within that band for certain positions anyway. So that may be the easiest adjustment that you make, and I think that kind of reiterates what Nikki was saying. But also, only senior leadership would be 17, 18s, 19s, and 20s. So if you wanted to make a change, which you don't have to, you could easily just move to a 17 for the time being and see how that goes and see where your comfort level is. I mean, I'm not opposed to any of those things. I can see it as a burden to you when you don't know the candidates anyway. You didn't go through the process of the hiring. So we're at your pleasure for this discussion, but I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Maybe this will be something simple and we just adjust the pay band and we move on. But you mentioned also about there are some other things in our history about how we maybe some changes should be made. So, or maybe not changed, updated maybe, that might be more appropriate. So would it be simple for us to do the pay band change now, and then maybe in the spring or sometime we look at some of those to kind of bring it, or maybe in our rules section or something where we kind of come into 2023 or 2024.
You could do all of those things, and we're happy to work with you to accomplish whatever decision the body makes. I'll tell you, the policy change, I think you could make it quickly. You could make it today if you wanted to, or you could continue to chew on it and come back and have another discussion. The thing in the regulation that I think could be tweaked if you want to go entirely away from the board approval is there's just a small section in the administrative rules which says that the state director shall recommend the appointment and compensation of the employees of the State Department. And so because that language says he's recommending appointment, then we might want to clarify that to take that out of the rules if that's the direction that you want to go, just for consistency. And we can wait a little bit to make that decision, but not a ton, because as Gina will be working on rules and whatnot, and so we have to get those in by March 1st of this year, which means we have to back you up into the late fall, winter to make those decisions so that we can actually get through that rule promulgation process, which takes a little bit of time. So you've got time,
Not a long time, though.
but not a lot of time, is that correct?
So I'm sorry I missed the last meeting. So, and I'm asking questions, but thank you, so catch myself up. So today, if we just make a recommendation for a pay band 17, then that's simple and it's done and it's in place, and then we can ask that some of the reviews be looked at and that and we make, we would encourage some updates or some changes.
I like the idea of that because it's the fall coming on and giving the freedom for the hire. I mean, this is just, fall is the hiring time of the year, more than any other time of the year. And I just feel like if we did something about it today, it sounds like the tweaks and the changes can come, and that's not a huge deal.
Right.
But this is at least giving him the freedom and us sort of not, he can move forward with what he wants to move forward. I
What-
mean, when
We
we
just
were,
don't need to micromanage him is the.
yes, that's what it seemed like.
Was that your motion?
Oh,
We do have,
Are we
I will,
ready?
before you make a decision, the only position that is in leadership that is coming up that we know of is academic affairs. That'd be a pay band 17, and hopefully that's done by the next board meeting. That's our goal. So that would only be one. Everything else should be below that.
but put, yeah,
Sorry.
but that would be good. We probably want to know about that one because it's a new position, right?
Yeah.
I
But
think
you
that's what we
present that
discussed at the last
anyway.
time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those would be the new positions where we'd
Yeah.
probably want to have a little bit of say in. I think that's what you would.
So new positions currently under executive order have to be approved by Cabinet Secretary, and then I present it to the board as well before we move forward on those.
Great.
So that one's been done already.
So this that we've got in front of us is the proposed policy
This is
change.
currently how it reads. There is no proposal. This is the pleasure of the board right now to make that proposal if they see it. Currently, you'll see, make sure, hopefully I don't miss many things, but at the very bottom, at state board approval, it says scheduled in grades 14 and above.
So really, the only thing that the only hard decision that we need to make would be that presenting a motion to say that we would like to increase the oversight from grades 14 to grades 17 and above
If that's your pleasure, yeah.
for approval by the board. And everything below is approval by the director. Is that a motion, or do I have to say it again? Great.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do you mind calling the roll, Ms. Zemp?
Yes, I could do that. Mr. Gilbert,
Yes.
Ms. Hanning,
Yes.
Mr. Hillary,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Ms. Wesson,
Yes.
Superintendent Walters.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you for your help with that, Nikki. Appreciate that. I don't see any other items on here. Are we good, Director Hayden?
Yeah.
Last
We're-
question, next meeting is going to be somewhere that isn't here.
Correct.
Did we decide?
Did you get results back?
I have gotten results, but we haven't
Okay.
fully decided, we haven't decided yet.
Yep. So we'll decide that here real soon. Or is there anyone that wants to provide input that has not yet on?
I
So
think
what went
everyone
out,
got
you
that.
probably got this as well, is just if there's a technology center you want to have your next meeting at, we need to get that started.
Love it.
We were kind of thinking green country,
Mhm.
but that hadn't been the decision
Yeah, I
yet.
know there was a couple of Green Country votes, and
Mhm.
so, yeah.
Thank you for reminding us that we might want to check that before the next meeting. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Motion and a second? Can you call roll, Ms. Zemp?
Yes. Superintendent Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Wesson,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Hillary,
Yes.
Ms. Hanning,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
Yes.
We're adjourned.
All right, thank
guys
you all.
very much.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
I think we had that discussion after I had just gotten in on like a 6 a.m. flight from New York and then driven directly to there, and I was late. And it was so funny because we started talking about it and we were like, so, yeah, that was exactly how it went.
Here.
Because then somebody